My name is Megan, and 3 years ago, I bought a country house that seemed perfect for me. It was in a quiet area, close to some amazing ski slopes. The location was ideal since I work remotely as an app developer, and honestly, I'm not exactly what you'd call a social butterfly. Growing up, I was always the quiet one in my family. My older brother, Dave, was the athletic star who married his high school sweetheart, Lisa. They have 2 kids, Tommy who's 8 and Emma who's 6. My younger sister, Rachel, was the popular one who married her college boyfriend, Mark, and they have a 4-year-old named Lily. My parents are both retired now, but still try to run everyone's lives like they did when we were kids. When I told my family about my new house, I saw something light up in their eyes that made me immediately regret sharing the news. A house near ski slopes? That's perfect, you should host Christmas this year, my mom said, clapping her hands together like she'd just solved a major problem. I don't know, I replied, fidgeting with my coffee mug. It's not that big, and I'm not really set up for entertaining. Nonsense, Dad chimed in, it'll be good for you to have some company. You spend too much time alone with your computer. Dave nodded, the kids would love to go skiing. Come on, Meg, it'll be fun. After thinking about it for a few weeks, I reluctantly agreed. I figured it would be just that one time. Maybe hosting one Christmas wouldn't be so bad. It might even be nice to have the house filled with people for once. As Christmas approached, I worked extra hours to get ahead on my projects. The holiday season is actually one of my busiest times, as everyone wants their new apps ready for the December rush of phone gifts and downloads. The closer the holiday got, the more I realized I wouldn't have time to cook the massive spread my mom would expect. The day before everyone was due to arrive, I called up the best local restaurant and ordered their holiday package, turkey, ham, sides, desserts, the works. It cost a fortune, but I figured it was worth it to avoid the stress of cooking while trying to finish my work. When my family pulled up to my house, it was like watching a clown car unpack. Bags, presents, ski equipment, and noisy kids poured out. My mom rushed over and hugged me tightly. Oh, Megan, this place is gorgeous. I can't believe you live here all by yourself. I smiled, already feeling the introvert alarms going off in my head. Thanks, Mom. Let me show you around. The tour took about 5 minutes. It wasn't a mansion, just a modest 3-bedroom place. I'd converted one bedroom into my office, which meant most of my family would be sleeping on air mattresses and pull-out couches. Where's the Christmas dinner? Mom asked, peering into my kitchen. Don't tell me you haven't started cooking yet. Actually, I ordered everything from Pine Valley Restaurant. They're delivering it tomorrow morning, I explained. My mother's face fell so dramatically you'd think I'd just told her I was canceling Christmas altogether. Restaurant food? For Christmas? Mom, I've been swamped with work, I didn't have time to. A good hostess would have made time, she interrupted, her lips pursed. When I hosted Christmas, I started preparing days ahead. I bit my tongue. There was no point arguing with her. She'd never understood my career, always treating it like some kind of hobby rather than an actual job. Christmas dinner actually went better than I expected. Despite my mother's disapproval, everyone seemed to enjoy the restaurant food. We exchanged gifts after dinner, and I'd spent weeks picking out perfect presents for everyone, the latest gaming system for Dave, designer purse for Lisa, artwork for Rachel and Mark, toys for the kids, and a weekend getaway package for my parents. In return, I received a scarf from Rachel, socks from Dave and Lisa, and a coffee mug from my parents that said "World's Best Aunt." We all pitched in together, Mom explained. We thought it would be more meaningful that way. I smiled and thanked them, even though I knew the combined cost of their gifts was probably less than what I'd spent on any one of them. But that wasn't the point of Christmas, I reminded myself. The days after Christmas were a blur of noise, mess, and barely contained chaos. The kids used my house as a playground, racing up and down the stairs, spilling drinks on my rugs, and leaving toys everywhere. The adults went skiing during the day and returned to more restaurant food that I continued to pay for without complaint. Not once did anyone offer to help clean up. Dishes piled in the sink, wet towels were left on bathroom floors, and nobody seemed to notice or care. Each night, I'd wait until everyone was asleep, then quietly clean up enough to keep my sanity. "Megan, we're out of coffee," my dad announced one morning as I was trying to squeeze in an hour of work. "There's a grocery store 10 minutes away," I replied, not looking up from my computer. "Well, we don't know the area," he complained. "And we're all getting ready to go skiing." I looked up at him standing there in his new ski pants that I'd bought him for Christmas. "I'll go get some after I finish this section." "We wanted to have coffee before we head out," he pressed. So I closed my laptop, got dressed, and drove to the store, while everyone else continued getting ready for their day of fun. By New Year's Eve, I was exhausted and behind on my work. I hadn't had a moment to myself in a week, and my bank account was feeling the strain of feeding 9 people restaurant meals every day. "This has been so wonderful," Mom said as we clinked glasses at midnight. "We should do this every year." I nearly choked on my champagne. The next morning, they all packed up to leave. Not one of them stripped a bed or washed a dish. They hugged me goodbye, thanked me for everything, and drove away, leaving me with a house that looked like it had been hit by a tornado. A year passed quickly. My work kept me busy, and I was grateful for the peace and quiet of my house. Mom and Dad would call occasionally, usually on holidays or my birthday, but they never mentioned Christmas again, which gave me hope that maybe they'd forgotten about making it a tradition. That hope was shattered exactly 2 weeks before Christmas when my phone rang. Mom called with her extra cheerful voice to announce they were all coming back to my place for Christmas this year. My stomach dropped immediately. Before I could protest further, she hung up. I spent the next few days weighing my options but ultimately did what I always did. I started preparing for their arrival. I cleared my schedule as much as possible, stocked the refrigerator, and mentally prepared myself for another week of chaos. What I wasn't prepared for was the text I received a full week before I was expecting them, saying they had just left and would be at my place by dinner. I nearly dropped my coffee mug. I called my mother immediately to confirm what I was reading. She explained that the kids got out of school earlier than expected, and they all managed to get more time off work. When I explained that I had thought they were coming on the 23rd, she acted like the change of plans was a wonderful surprise rather than a complete disruption to my work schedule. 7 hours later, my driveway was once again filled with cars, and my house was filled with noise. Mom burst through the door first, giving me a quick hug before immediately commenting that I hadn't decorated yet. When I explained I was planning to do it that weekend since I wasn't expecting them until the following week, she simply waved dismissively and said it was good they were there early to help. The help turned out to be Mom directing me where to put everything while she supervised from the couch. Meanwhile, the kids were already making themselves at home, pulling out toys and games, and spreading them across my freshly vacuumed floor. Soon after, Mom announced there was nothing to eat in the house. I reminded her I wasn't expecting them until the following week and offered to cook something in an hour, but she insisted on ordering from the expensive restaurant we had used last year. I handed over my credit card, knowing I'd probably regret it. "Just the essentials, Mom, I've already spent a lot this week." She patted my cheek like I was still 12 years old. "Don't worry about money during the holidays, dear, family is what matters." 2 hours later, she returned with bags of prepared meals from the gourmet section of the grocery store, 3 expensive bottles of wine, and a receipt that made me wince. "Mom, this is way more than we need." "When I'm on vacation, I like to enjoy myself," she replied, unpacking the bags. "Besides, I never get to relax at home. There's always so much cooking and cleaning to do." Christmas morning arrived, and once again, I had ordered a full holiday meal from Pine Valley Restaurant. It cost even more this year, but watching my family's faces light up as they dug into the food almost made it worth it. After dinner, came the gift exchange. I had once again spent weeks choosing perfect gifts for everyone, a drone for Dave that he'd been talking about for months, designer winter boots for Lisa, a spa package for Rachel, a high-end watch for Mark, and toys the kids had specifically asked for. For my parents, I'd splurged on a weekend at a luxury mountain resort. When it was my turn to open gifts, they handed me a medium-sized box from all of them. Inside was a coffee maker, not a high-end one, but the kind you'd find on sale at any department store. The price tag was still partially visible on the bottom. Rachel explained that they had all pitched in because they knew how much I loved coffee. I forced a smile and thanked them, holding back from pointing out that I already had a perfectly good coffee maker they'd been using all week, or that the combined value of their gift was probably less than a tenth of what I'd spent on them. That evening, as everyone relaxed in the living room, I found myself cleaning the kitchen alone. The sink was piled high with dishes, and the counters were covered in food spills. I'd been at it for nearly an hour when Rachel walked in to get another glass of wine. "This place is a mess," she commented, looking around. "Yeah," I agreed, hoping she'd take the hint and offer to help. Instead, she filled her glass and said, "Mom's asking if there's any of that chocolate cake left from yesterday." I dried my hands on a towel and turned to face her. "Rachel, would you mind helping me with these dishes? There's a lot, and I've been cleaning up after everyone all week." She looked genuinely surprised. "Seriously?" "I'm on vacation, Megan, and the kids are finally settled watching a movie." "I'm on vacation too," I pointed out, "or at least, I'm supposed to be. But I've been working and cleaning and paying for everything." She rolled her eyes. "It's your house, you can't expect guests to clean." "I can expect family to pitch in," I countered, "especially when they invited themselves." Rachel's face hardened. "I'll go get Mom." Minutes later, both Mom and Rachel returned to the kitchen with indignant expressions. Mom took Rachel's side, stating firmly that they wouldn't clean during their vacation and suggesting that if I didn't want to host, I shouldn't have invited them. New Year's Day arrived, and I was counting down the hours until everyone would leave. But at dinner, Dad announced that they'd all been having such a great time that they had arranged to take more time off and would be staying for another 2 weeks. I was stunned, explaining that this wasn't what we had planned and that I had work and deadlines to consider. Mom dismissed my concerns, suggesting I should be happy to have family around longer and implying that my career making phone games was less important than family. The 2 additional weeks my family stayed were absolute hell. Mom kept demanding money for food, insisting that since they were on vacation, they deserved to eat well. Dad spent most of his time on the slopes, coming back only to eat and sleep. Dave and Rachel barely supervised their kids, who were getting more restless by the day from being cooped up. My work suffered terribly. I tried explaining to my family that I needed quiet time to code, but they treated my job like it was some kind of hobby I could set aside whenever they wanted attention. One particularly stressful day, my boss called me directly. "Megan, is everything okay? You haven't been responding to emails, and the client is getting anxious about the timeline." I locked myself in the bathroom to take the call because it was the only quiet place in the house. "I'm sorry, Jack. I've had some family situations come up. I understand personal emergencies happen, but this project is time sensitive. Can you get back on track by Friday?" I promised I would, knowing it meant pulling all-nighters after everyone went to bed. That evening, I worked frantically in my office only to be interrupted 10 minutes later by the unmistakable sound of my office door opening. I spun around to find my nephew standing at my computer desk. "Can we play a game?" Tommy asked, already reaching for my mouse. "No," I said sharply, jumping up from my chair. "This is my work computer, it has important files on it." "But we're bored," Emma whined. "Where are your parents?" I asked. "Mom said to find something quiet to do," Tommy replied, still eyeing my computer. I took a deep breath. This isn't a place for kids to play. "Please go find your mom and tell her I said you need supervision." They reluctantly left, and I locked the door behind them. 15 minutes later, there was a loud knock. "Megan, open up," it was Rachel. I opened the door to find my sister standing there with both kids, looking annoyed. "The kids said you yelled at them," she accused. "I didn't yell, I told them they can't play with my work computer. That computer has all my work projects on it. If they accidentally delete something or download a virus, I could lose weeks of work." Rachel rolled her eyes. You're being dramatic. They just wanted to play a game. Then set them up with a game in the living room, I suggested, or take them outside. Or watch them yourself instead of sending them to bother me while I'm working. Her face hardened. You know, Megan, this is why you're alone. You have no idea what it's like to be a parent. We don't get to just lock ourselves away when things get inconvenient. No, you just dump your kids on other people and call it a vacation, I snapped back. Rachel's mouth fell open. Wow, just wow. She turned and marched away, kids in tow. I knew I'd pay for that comment later, but in the moment, I was too frustrated to care. Sure enough, at dinner that night, Rachel had apparently shared our conversation with everyone. The table was unusually quiet until Mom broke the silence. Megan, Rachel told us what you said to her today. I think you owe her an apology. She works very hard as a mother, and for you to suggest she's not doing her job. That's not what I said, I interrupted. I said she shouldn't expect me to watch her kids while I'm working. You don't understand how exhausting it is to be a parent, Rachel chimed in. You have no responsibilities except to yourself. I looked around the table. No responsibilities? I'm responsible for this house, for my career, and apparently for feeding and housing all of you for a month without any help or consideration. Oh, here we go again with the poor me routine, Rachel said, making air quotes. You're just bitter, because you're alone. The table fell silent again. I stared at my sister, then at my parents, waiting for someone to defend me. No one did, they just looked uncomfortable. You're right, I finally said, my voice quiet. I don't know what it's like to be a parent. But you don't know what it's like to have your home invaded for a month, to be expected to pay for everything, to clean up after everyone, and to have your work dismissed as unimportant. I stood up from the table. I'm going to work now. There are leftovers in the fridge if anyone's still hungry. I spent the rest of the evening in my office, ignoring the sounds of the TV and occasional bursts of laughter. Part of me wished I could join them, be the fun aunt and sister they wanted me to be. But another part of me was just counting down the days until I could have my peace and quiet back. Finally, their extended vacation came to an end. As they packed up their cars, I stood on the porch, a mixture of relief and sadness washing over me. Despite everything, they were still my family. Mom hugged me last. It's been wonderful, Megan. Though I have to say, you could have been more hospitable. We're all a bit disappointed with how you've acted. I pulled back, stunned. Disappointed? With me? Well, yes, the attitude, the complaints about cleaning, not wanting to spend time with the kids. We're family, Megan. Family supports each other. I opened my mouth to argue, then closed it again. There was no point, they would never see my side of things. Have a safe trip home, I said instead. As they drove away, I didn't wave. I just went back inside, closed the door, and leaned against it. The house was so quiet I could hear the clock ticking in the kitchen. Life without family drama was pretty sweet. My work thrived, I got a substantial raise, and I finally had the peace and quiet I craved. But 2 months before Christmas my social media notifications started blowing up. It was my sister Rachel posting photos of her kids on skis with the caption, "Getting ready for our annual Christmas ski trip at Aunt Megan's." My heart raced as I scrolled through the comments. Not only were my immediate family members planning their annual invasion, but other relatives were commenting too. Can't wait to join you all this year. Save room for us. Best Christmas tradition ever. With shaking hands, I called my mother. Mom, we need to talk about Christmas, I said as soon as she answered. Oh, Megan, I was just about to call you, she sounded thrilled. I have such exciting news. Everyone had such a wonderful time at your place last year that I mentioned it at your cousin Jen's wedding. Now the whole family wants to come. Not just us, but Uncle Steve and Aunt Laura, their kids, Grandma Betty, your cousins from your father's side, about 20 people in total. Isn't that wonderful? Before I could respond, she hung up. I sat there, staring at my phone, rage building inside me. Without thinking, I opened my social media account and typed, "Public service announcement, I am not hosting any family members at my house this Christmas. I repeat, no one is invited to my house for the holidays. Make other plans." I posted it, turned off my phone, and went for a long hike to clear my head. When I returned and checked my notifications, I was shocked. Instead of angry responses, my family members had commented with laughing emojis and messages like, "Haha, good one, Meg. Classic Megan humor. See you in December." They thought I was joking. That's when I made my decision. If they wouldn't listen to my words, they'd have to learn from my actions. I went to the grocery store and stocked up on enough food and wine to last me through the holidays. Then I called a security company and had cameras installed around my property. I notified my neighbors of the situation and waited. Sure enough, exactly 1 week before Christmas, a caravan of cars pulled into my driveway. Through my security cameras, I watched as 20 people, including my parents, siblings, their kids, and extended family I barely knew, piled out with luggage, presents, and ski equipment. They rang the doorbell, I didn't answer. They knocked louder, I stayed silent. Finally, my dad called my phone. "Megan, we're all here, open up." "No," I said calmly, "I told you repeatedly that I wasn't hosting Christmas. You chose not to listen." I hung up and muted my phone. Through the cameras, I watched as my family huddled together in the cold. Mom was gesturing wildly, clearly ranting about my behavior. Rachel was trying to console her crying kids. Dave was pounding on my door. The doorbell rang continuously for 20 minutes. Then I saw something that made me grab my phone immediately. The kids were making snowballs and throwing them at my windows. I called Rachel. "Tell your kids to stop throwing things at my house right now." "They're just playing," she snapped, "if you'd let us in." "I have security cameras recording everything," I interrupted. "If they break a window, I'll report the damage to the police." After I hung up, the adults quickly stopped the kids from throwing more snowballs, but the shouting got louder. My neighbors noticed the commotion and came over. Through the cameras, I could see my elderly neighbor Mr. Peterson talking firmly to my family. A few minutes later, my phone rang again. It was Mr. Peterson. "Megan, your family says you've locked them out. Is everything okay?" "Yes, Mr. Peterson. I repeatedly told them not to come, but they showed up anyway. I'm not letting them in." "I see," he said slowly. "Well, they're causing quite a disturbance. If they don't quiet down or leave soon, I'm afraid I'll have to call the police." "I understand, thank you for letting me know." When I hung up, I turned up the volume on my security system. I could hear Mr. Peterson relaying our conversation to my family. "This is private property," he was explaining. "If Megan doesn't want to let you in, that's her right. And you're disturbing the neighborhood. I suggest you all find somewhere else to go before the police get involved." The looks of disbelief on my family's faces were almost comical. They'd never imagined their plan could fail so completely. After a heated discussion among themselves, they finally started packing back into their cars. The fallout was swift and dramatic. The next day, Rachel posted a long, tearful video about how I had abandoned my family at Christmas and left children out in the cold. My social media was flooded with angry comments from relatives and even some old school friends who'd heard the story. I didn't respond to any of it. I didn't try to defend myself or explain why I'd done what I did. They'd never bothered to listen to me before, so why would they start now? Instead, I invited a few close friends over for Christmas dinner. We cooked together, exchanged modest gifts, played board games, and didn't once mention my family drama. It was the most peaceful, enjoyable Christmas I'd had in years. In the months that followed, my phone remained silent. No calls from Mom on my birthday. No texts from my siblings about their kids' activities. No invitations to family gatherings. I was officially the black sheep, the cruel daughter who had turned her back on family tradition. And honestly, it was exactly what I wanted. Maybe someday they'd realize how they'd taken advantage of me. Maybe they'd understand that true family respects boundaries and doesn't treat one member like a free hotel service. Maybe they'd acknowledge that what they'd been doing was selfish and unfair. But even if that day never came, I was okay with it. I had finally stood up for myself, and that was worth more than any family approval. My house was mine again, my time was mine again, my life was mine again,